Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Our Thread, the podcast, bringing our content to you. I'm All It Is, and today I'm here with the boys for episode 4, the Royal Tenenbaums vs. Goodwill Hunting. Oh boy, I'm excited to get into this one because last night we had an Our Thread group viewing of the Royal Tenenbaums at Chateau Sauvage. Our Thread member Savage's backyard movie theater, and we had a great time, folks, watching a great movie. But before we get into the matchup, a special shout out to tonight's sponsor, SongWhip. Songwhip.com is the best way to share your music links to every platform with just one click. It's easy, and as far as I know, it's the only website of its kind, and Beware and I use it all the time. So all my musicians out there, go check out SongWhip today. Folks, it's time to get into episode 4, a bracket battle of wits with geniuses on both ends. Whether you're a janitor from Boston or grew up in the Tenenbaum home. Homework's in, let the battle of wits begin. But not before we hear that intro music by Beware. Go.
Good morning.
Morning.
Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Well, it's very, homey.
What? Are you kidding? We got us a family here.
I hope you realize how you've hurt my feelings.
I'm afraid you're just too darn loud. Next please.
Just take it easy, man.
I'm perfectly confident.
Yeah, waving the fucking gun around?
Calmer than you are.
Look, I made a mistake, all right? It didn't make any difference anyway.
Hey, I'm letting it go. But don't say it doesn't matter. Every line matters.
Get off my back!
Don't fuck with my plan!
And like that, he's gone.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Our Thread podcast, bringing our content to you, featuring All It Is.
It's official, old buddy. Who has been.
Beware.
From then on, he was known as Benny the Jet Rodriguez.
The Doc.
You're the doc, Doc.
The Pep.
Oh, if you already know the answers to your questions, then why ask? Pig fuck!
And myself, Savage.
I'm 6'5", 220, and there's two of them.
The boys, I hope everybody's doing good out there. I did have a great time viewing the Royal Tenenbaums last night with you over at Savage's house. That was a great time. So Savage, why don't you just go ahead and lead us off since you were so kind to host us last night for our movie viewing. Savage.
Yeah, thanks, Ez. It was a great time having everyone over last night at my theater. Oh, wait a minute. What is going on here? Is there a birthday in Our Thread? Oh my goodness, it is. 36 years old today, our friend All It Is. And boy, do we have a matchup that's going to go really well on a day like today.
Appreciate that.
Love ya.
And while we're at it, too, might as well shout out Beware in a couple days turns 36 as well.
Wait a minute.
Nice.
Is that another? Oh, it's another one. Yep.
That's got to be the creepiest birthday music I've ever heard in my life.
I used Spotify and I found the best one that I could find was like a lullaby version. So yeah, here we go.
Sorry, folks, we wouldn't have time to clear the birthday song. You know that's copyrighted, so I appreciate that.
Yeah,
but Savage, still, why don't you tell us about that viewing last night?
Sure. Yeah, it was great having everyone over for our first. For those that aren't in Our Thread, which are most of the listeners here. I have a little projector that I've been using at least at this house and the house that I had previous, and we do movie nights, I don't know, up to like 5 or 6 times this summer. And so last night was the first one for this year at our house. We happened to do Royal Tenenbaums, which was actually on my short list of movies that I wanted to hit and in the backyard. We had a really fun time. It was great to watch a movie that I know that we've all probably seen collectively over 100 times. But it was nice to see a movie like this with all you guys, which I'm sure we've all seen the movie together numerous times as well. But it was great to sit down and enjoy the crisp evening air and sit outside and watch a good movie together. So we had a lot of fun. Obviously, the Royal Tenenbaums is a huge movie in Our Thread. I know for those listening, I know you guys probably tuned into episode 3.1. There's a little bit of jerry rigging going on, trying to get Royal Tenenbaums possibly pushed through a little bit. So I think that I think that a lot of people that are familiar with this movie would definitely realize how impactful this movie is for a couple of 35 and 36 and 37-year-olds. So with that being said, I'll send it back over to Birthday Boy and see where we want to go next.
Well, I'd agree. However we got introduced to Wes Anderson as a friendship, I know the doc is really into Wes Anderson and always made sure he had everyone on DVD that came out, and probably is the first person to share a preview for a new Wes Anderson movie if it is in the making or in the works. And I don't know how that really came to be, but all I know is that Wes Anderson, I bet we could all agree on, is one of our favorite directors as a whole, as a group. And talk about geniuses on both ends of these movies, Good Will Hunting and Royal Tenenbaums, actually literally having geniuses in it. Wes Anderson is a genius himself. You can't cut it any other way. He is brilliant. His stage setup, his choreography, the cinematography rather, and but choreographing everything perfectly to the script and to the T, and his cuts. I couldn't say enough about how much I love Wes Anderson, and shout out to that genius and that great director that makes it into the bracket battle. I think 2 times, maybe. Yeah, 2. I think we got 2 Wes Anderson films. Doc, what do you got to say?
Oh man, so kind of reflecting on last week's episode, and when you announced Royal Tenenbaums pitted up against Good Will Hunting, I got so excited because I love both of those movies, but then my heart sunk because then I realized, oh shit, I'm gonna have to, fight for each of these, and the only one's gonna come out, and so the task that was at hand seemed rather large and daunting. And despite my attempts to avoid that, I think that we are actually faced with a really great matchup, and I was forced to think about these movies in maybe even possibly a different way. And I think looking at both these movies, they're both dramas, and they're both dramas about relationships. And one takes the drama in a very different direction, in a more serious approach, and one takes it more as a whimsical kind of fantasy approach. But both of them, when you get cut down to the core of it, these are family dramas or relationships, looking, kind of having to deal with the past or confront the past, and to try to move forward in the future. And that's what both these movies are about. One is a little bit more, hits some emotional chords, maybe more than the other. But I think that, just because maybe one's a little bit more emotional doesn't necessarily make it a better movie. On the same page, just because one is a little more funnier and wittier and enjoyable to watch many times doesn't necessarily make that a great one. And so I'd be really interested to hear from the discussants about kind of their points and thoughts and feelings about both of these movies. And so I'm really excited to get into this.
Great points, Doc. 2 witty movies, definitely. Wes Anderson definitely has a way of playing with wits and drama and humor, but both movies are littered with humor too. But I want to hear from the other thread member, so I'm going to go ahead and pass it to Beware. Beware, how do you feel?
I feel great. Happy birthday. I think that both movies really stand tall when you look back and kind of all the movies that we've had the blessing to watch over the past few decades. Royal Tenenbaums, I think I mentioned in the previous podcast, I had a movie poster of that since up in my room when I was in high school, and I think in college too. And it was always just something that we had on deck. One of the first, I remember that big thick DVD that it had, the big pink DVD that stood out in my collection, watching that over and over again. And then Good Will Hunting was another one that I had. And, Royal Tenenbaums maybe seems like that one was a little bit more at the top of our list personally, where Good Will Hunting was maybe at the top of the list more critically. And obviously we still liked it, but I think that the comedic lean that Royal Tenenbaums always kind of made it was in our wheelhouse and kind of made it one of our favorites. Whereas Good Will Hunting, it's just a great movie and it's hard to deny across the board. And I think the doc made a great point saying that they're very similar dramas. and that it's people looking back on the past, trying to be, meet their past head on and try to move past it. I think it also has to do with a lot of people that are closed off, a lot of people that can't get past that past because they're closed off. And throughout the movie, it's the camaraderie of the relationships and some of the different turns that the movie takes the characters in that really helps them open up. And I think in turn that really is what makes the movie so endearing, beyond just the great writing and the excellent visual storytelling. And I think there's a lot more that could be said about some of that stuff. But
real quick, beware, you don't happen to be there with Mordecai, do you? I know you're out on your porch. I hear the evening birds. I don't know if Beware's there with Mordecai and just gonna let him free.
Go, Mordecai.
But because you brought that up, I actually learned something today when I was doing my research on Tenenbaums about Mordecai, and a couple things. And I actually saw Savage just pointed out one that I'll let actually him tell, but another one that I heard is that throughout the movie, they actually you can hear Mordecai at certain scenes, but you don't see him throughout the movie. And there are scenes with Richie. And I guess Wes Anderson talks about how he wanted you to hear and know that Mordecai was present throughout the movie and always kind of looking out over Richie. But and I have to go back and watch now and listen for that. But I guess there's a couple key scenes. Now, actually, now speaking about Mordecai, I'm going to pass it over to Savage because this is another great fact about Mordecai while we're talking about it.
The fact that the original Mordecai, something happened where he got lost.
He got kidnapped.
He got kidnapped because someone else caught Mordecai and then demanded some sort of financial restitution to get Mordecai back.
Facts with
and so
Savage.
Wes Anderson just said, "Fuck it, nope." And they got another Falcon. It just happened to be a little bit more white looking, so you can tell the differences between the two.
Don't they mention that he's got a little gray hairs on him?
Right.
That's great facts with Sav and Doc. I really love that. Hey, the Cap's over there. He's real spacey, man. I don't know. Sometimes it's the mescaline. Let's check in with the Cap and see if what he's got to say.
Yeah, sure. Two of my favorite movies. I think that Royal Tenenbaums is my favorite Wes Anderson movie. It's got a little bit of everything. Well, I guess some things, first of all, that I like about both movies is that there are no wasted scenes. Every scene really pushes the story forward. There's no wasted dialogue either. Watching Tenenbaums last night, I kind of realized, not that I didn't already think that Wes Anderson was a sharp guy and a sharp director. I don't like to throw that around lightly. I realized that the effort and the attention to detail that goes in, sure, the set production is extremely impressive, but the way that he directs his actors is, to me, sort of similar. Well, when I think of, and I remember thinking this back when I watched it originally, the way that he uses Ben Stiller's rage, something that that was present in almost his slapstick comedy, in the same way that Adam Sandler is in Punch Drunk Love with Paul Thomas Anderson. He uses that
Didn't make
funny,
the list, folks. Didn't make the list.
That funny person and turns it into an actual dramatic. It's still funny, but it's dramatically angry, and there's underlying sadness in both of those characters. A director's real talent is seeing what tools they can use from each actor. So that's maybe one of my favorite parts of the Royal Tenenbaums is Chaz's character. Another thing is Alec Baldwin's narration, especially at the beginning. You get an entire lifetime worth of story in the first 10, 15 minutes. Oh, another thing I wanted to say about the Royal Tenenbaums is an appreciation of its sort of cartoonish quality in that each character has like this very specific, well, more of the kids, I guess, and Royal's character has a specific outfit. I think it's most obvious in the red jumpsuits, but obviously they all have their shtick as far as costumes, and they even went as far as to being like popular Halloween costumes and things like that. As far as Good Will Hunting goes, yes, it's a great movie. It's to me it's way more emotionally charged, but you know there's something to be said for the way that Wes Anderson uses music to get emotions out of you in his work. So Good Will Hunting's an obviously super original movie. It's something like that has never really been thought of or done before, so it kind of stands on its own as like its own thing, and it always has, and nobody's really tried to do anything like that.
To say something to that point, Cap, that
sure,
that was any Wes Anderson movie could potentially be like a first of its kind. Never, you've never seen that before. But we have to give it up for Good Will Hunting, because as us being all young men when we watch that really we'd never seen that story. And if you ever, I know Beware and I know the feeling when you tap into something that surprisingly has never been tapped in before, and you're like, well, how does that never been thought of? It's like coming up with $1 million idea and being like, how does this not exist? I got to go do this. What a great script. And hey, who wrote that script, Doc?
Well, according to the, if you were to go to the IMDb, it says Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, but there is speculation there is speculation that they did get some help. And this was actually a story, so kind of give a little bit more background, is that this was a story kind of originally conceived by Matt Damon, but it was a one-act play that he wrote while he was at Harvard. So really didn't have a lot figured out. And then he and Ben Affleck kind of developed it over the years. But they, through family friends and other friends in the business that they ran the script by, got a lot of feedback, a lot of input, and the script changed and changed and changed. And so, yeah, of course, Damon and Affleck got credit for it, but there's a lot of influence from a lot of other friends, family friends, and people try to give him a hard time for it, but
facts with Doc.
Blair and I were talking about that a lot, Doc, that they're from the city and stuff like that, and that's where the college is, so they probably knew smart people. Beware, I know we were having this conversation a couple days ago. We pointed that out, that they most likely ran this by, just as you were saying, family, but also smart people, because you can't just, I don't know, fill in the blanks like it's Mad Libs or something.
Well, yeah, Matt Damon went to Harvard, correct? Like,
I didn't know
sure
that.
He knows a lot of smart people. I do feel like that's something that I never heard before, and I find extremely interesting. The movie also, with having so few characters, had a very community type feel to it. What group of friends goes to watch a Little League, young 20s goes to watch a Little League baseball game and they know all their names? Like, it's got a very community feel to it. So I don't know. I mean, that might not have any relation to them getting input from other people, but it seems like they, if they were trying to put something together with a lot of input from a lot of people, I don't know. The movie just doesn't seem like it's like this one perspective, like from Good Will Hunting's perspective.
Yeah.
It just seems like it's a very broadly based movie. It's very Boston, and it's very, yeah.
What do you think, Beware?
I think it's a very Boston movie. I mean, I've been there a handful of times, but I mean, I don't know it well at all. But based on the conversations I've heard, it seems like it's a very Boston movie, and also based on a lot of the other movies that, like, particularly Ben Affleck has done. I feel like a lot of his movies fall in that same lane, and they have that same neighborhood feel, as Mike put it, and Boston movies in general do. And that resonates highly throughout the movie. And it's a very class-centric movie, and I think that's a big thing in Boston, because you've got Ivy League schools mixed right there in with blue-collar neighborhoods, and so there's a stark clash in the the different types of people and the different walks of life. And Boston's a pretty small city too, relatively. It's a big name city, but it's a walkable city. You know what I mean? So these people are likely to clash, and you kind of see that happening. And you can see how Will Hunting is a product of that, and he's got a lot going for him, but he's kind of stuck in a rut, and he doesn't know how to level up, and nobody else around him is pushing him or knows how to at all. And I think it just it couldn't be if there weren't those class details and those pressures of class, then the movie wouldn't exist. And it's as much of that as about any one-off person too.
Beware.
I wonder if we were voting on the best script, if we'd have different results than we have tonight. And we're not to get to the vote nowhere near that, folks. But I just wanted to say that's interesting that had to be a fabulous script. And
can I make a point on that real quick?
Beware, please do.
The script, Good Will Hunting, it feels like it is the script. It is the script. There's like where Royal Tenenbaums is very visual centric and has a lot going on for it. Every detail is essential and really well thought out. But that's obviously Wes Anderson's thing. But Good Will Hunting is the script, and like without the script, the movie, like visually, it's not stunning. I think we noted a few parts of it felt a little dated, but I made a note that Good Will Hunting feels like you're reading a book. I'm watching a movie, yet it feels like I'm reading a book somehow. You know what I'm saying? Like every
Matt
detail,
Damon's first book.
Yeah, exactly. Every word is. Every sentence is I can see it, not just hear it.
I'll make one point off of Beware's thing, and then I feel like we've got our sloppy synopsis out of the way for both
sloppy
movies before we move into some details. But I didn't feel completely drawn into this movie until Robin Williams' character comes in, which I don't even know if Doc would have the facts on that. He doesn't show up for like 45 minutes, I think.
No, that's a good call. I actually don't have the facts on that, but I will back you up by saying I completely.
The Doc.
Yeah. But I do agree completely that Robin Williams is a driving force in this movie.
Well, Doc, why don't we just talk about best character of both films, then? Would you please?
Let's talk about it. So I guess we'll kind of talk about Robin Williams. I hadn't seen this movie for several years, and I honestly, coming into this week, knowing this is on deck, I underestimated Good Will Hunting, and I kind of started taking some notes of like, yeah, okay, I remember this scene, and okay, yep, this is the classic kind of dialogue and da-da-da-da. But when Robin Williams appeared on the screen, I completely changed my tune, because I think in prior viewings, and obviously I don't think I'd seen Good Will Hunting since Robin Williams had passed away, and so Robin Williams' performance is just unbelievable. And that sucked me in immediately, and I was on board for the rest of it. And didn't matter how many times I'd seen the scenes or heard the scenes quoted or knew what was happening, that I was in for the ride to watch Robin Williams and Matt Damon and Skarsgård and all their interactions. And I don't know, man, it was something about Robin Williams really just brought it home for me.
Doc, but being the Wes Anderson fan you are you telling me that Robin Williams is the best character out of both movies? Can you just tell me straight up, Doc, and give it to me? Write me a script, Doc.
I'm not saying that, but because I got some notes I want to talk about Tenenbaums, but while we're talking about Robin Williams, man, I got to give props, and I think I could go back and forth. I could be swayed. I think the issue, if we were to talk about Tenenbaums, which I hope we kind of slide into next, is that there's so many amazing characters in Tenenbaums, and so many characters that drive their scenes, and so many dynamics and relationships to work through in that. Whereas in Good Will Hunting, it is really just Robin Williams is just phenomenal, and obviously you get to see Williams and Damon and Williams and Skarsgård, and so you get these cool dynamics. But I think it's really, you get to see Robin Williams highlighted, and it's incredible.
just wanted to point out, just like from some of the stuff that I was thinking about after seeing both the movies, there's something really heavy that both these movies have in common with one another. And we like to try to kind of figure out like similarities and differences when we're doing these matchups. And but I think that the biggest thing for me is both these movies have actors that might be the two pinnacle comedic actors of like the 80s and 90s, being Robin Williams and Bill Murray. And they're not the main character, and they're not particularly funny in either of these movies. And they both give obviously Robin Williams gives a better performance, I think, than Bill Murray, just because it's such a powerful, and he kind of,
it's a bigger role. Yeah,
it's a big role, right. But just the fact that these are, if you were to put up both these dudes' lists up against one another, there's some, insane movies that they both have on their resumes, where they are leading men, where they are Ghostbusters, where they are Jacks. It's like there's a lot of big movies that they have in their back pocket. It's kind of cool to see them kind of slide into that. For Michiganders, kind of like how Eiserman slid into a defenseman position and excelled even better at that than he was at an offensive man.
The question is, Savage, do you have a favorite character of both movies? I know I don't mean to rush anybody.
I'll
your favorite character. It's tough.
So yeah, I'll go into that. So my dad always said that Gene Hackman makes every movie better, and I happen to agree with that. And I think that the titular Royal Tenenbaum is the number one character between the two movies. And I'm really curious what Beware is thinking about.
What I'm thinking about is how Bill Murray, I liked your point about the 80s actors. I thought that was fantastic. And I think what I was thinking specifically about when you brought that up is how Bill Murray actually, in Royal Tenenbaums, he has an ebb and flow to his character. It's not a one-dimensional character, even though he's got a kind of a bit role amidst 15 big players. He starts off as a polished writer, a distinguished gentleman, and by the end, he's a cuckold and he's crushed. And so you see him defeated, and I think you kind of see him fall into a rut. And I really like that character is it's a true character. You see a lot. He brings a lot to the table despite having 10 minutes of screen time, if that. And I think that's funny that a character that is that well done it can be such an afterthought in that movie. It says a lot about those characters in that movie, and every character in that movie is fantastic. And honestly, every character plays a really important role. I feel like it's a Jenga tower. If you pulled out a few of the characters in Royal Tenenbaums, the whole thing would fall apart.
Wow, great.
But my favorite character, and also actually quickly, and I'll come back to it, everybody in Good Will Hunting, including the cast of brothers and crew. I like all those guys too. I like Minnie Driver as well. But I think that my favorite character is Gene Hackman. I think that he is just so fantastic. And he also comes around in that movie. He starts off as he's the son of a bitch.
Yeah, he is the son of a bitch.
But he ends up coming around at the end, and he redeems himself in multiple ways, signing off on the papers proactively, allowing for the wedding to happen, saving the kids, getting the dog, and he's just a good guy at the end. And you knew all the time he was a good guy. He just didn't know how to express himself, and that's kind of all the movie, all the characters in these movies. They're good. There's something inside at the beginning of the movie that is not representative of what they evolved to at the end.
Great points, Beware. Doc wants to check in with us and tell us, finish up his thought that he had.
Yeah, so I love hearing from Savage and Beware. I love those points, man. Those are great. And something that I think Savage said about these characters or these actors in where they're at in their career. And I think that the fact that they have such an extensive resume, an impressive resume, and they chose or they signed onto these movies, I think says a lot about what they thought about the script, what they thought about the director, the other actors that they'd be acting with. And then, which I think says a lot about these two movies. And then I think Beware was saying this with respect to like Bill Murray, I think got thrown in the mix, and talking about how Bill Murray really had more of a bit role. However, interestingly, as I was doing my research, I learned that Bill Murray actually had a bigger role, and not on scene, but kind of behind scenes, in that apparently, although Gene Hackman actually will get my vote, and I'll explain why in a little bit, but Gene Hackman was actually really difficult to work with on set, and was actually kind of a bully to Wes Anderson at times. And I think almost because Wes Anderson told Gene Hackman was kind of at the end of his acting career, and accepted the role contingent on it being a fun experience. And Wes Anderson promised him that, but Gene Hackman didn't know about Wes Anderson's meticulous style, as Kat pointed out early on. And there were some skirmishes, and there were some tensions, and so much so that there was awkwardness throughout. So anyways, long story short is that Bill Murray actually stood up for Wes Anderson and was one of the only actors that could confront Gene Hackman and kind of talk him down.
Drama with Doc.
And Bill Murray actually would show up to the set on his off days just to be by Wes Anderson's side and kind of help protect him against Gene Hackman, and help navigate that interaction. So although not a big role on screen, Bill Murray actually played a huge role behind the screens in trying to keep the peace and trying to make sure that each of the actors and directors are communicating effectively and achieving what the goal is.
Let's play tennis a little bit, Doc. But Bill Murray is very picky, and it's very hard to cast him. And if you know a little bit about Bill Murray, you know that he has only a phone number, that if you want to get him on a film, you have to actually call and leave a message. And he's very, very particular about who he does movies with and when he does movies. But Wes Anderson probably gets the cake every time. And that's I love that, hearing that, because Bill Murray is one of my favorite actors of all time, still to this day. Savage? Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, as if there weren't enough reasons to love Bill Murray, just hearing stories like that, I think kind of like increases.
Absolutely. Hey, if anybody wants to play a game persona. Of 2-on-2 tennis, we can go. We can toss it back and forth, folks. I love it.
I kind of want to weigh in on my favorite character.
Come on, Cap. We got 4. Here we go. Serve.
I'm just gonna say that I think the battle goes between Royal Tenenbaum and Sean from Good Will Hunting, Robin Williams' character, who Adam already touched on. I think I'll just
drum roll.
I'll go the other way. I'll say Robin Williams for me. He's like I think he's like every young man's dream therapist. I've seen some therapists in my time, and I know that like that Boston, that Irish Catholic thing, I think it's hard for young guys like that to open up, and it took 5 therapists to get to him, and it's this character that's from the same neighborhood. The character was already there for him, and I think he really brought it alive. The first scene you get him, serious scene you get him, they're going back and forth, and it's a battle of the wits, and it ends with Will Hunting insulting him and trying to get under his skin so much. He's talking about you married the wrong woman. Turns out his character's wife has died of cancer. He doesn't really know that, but he doesn't care. So you get him physically assaulting him, which is absolutely crossing the line in therapy. And I think that's like this physical aspect to this therapy session is sending the message to Will Hunting that like this guy is not fucking around. He is a human. He's also human. I can relate to him, and I think just him showing back up and
It's when
I don't
they
know.
first gain respect for each other, Cap. I think
Sure, yeah.
Sometimes you have to go through a tussle and a hardship together to get on the same page. And that respect, man, the choke scene, I thought we'd talk a little bit about choke, and that Robin Williams talked about can be have so many mannerisms of so many funny things. He has so many voices, but talk about his aggression. Oh man, he can snap it on. And I bet he's got old man strength like a gorilla, man. Just like,
speaking of gorillas, you see his knuckles, man, they're hairy.
Absolutely. Yes.
Hey, and I love what Cap said though about like, you know, that you don't aggress, you know, as a therapist, of course, you do not aggress towards your client. Like that's crossing the line. But at the same time, what Robin Williams or what his character Sean McGuire is doing is drawing the line. And like that is, I think, where he earns the respect from Will, and which was crucial to kind of building their kind of the foundation of their relationship right there.
I agree. And it almost looks like we're about to start talking about best scenes, but really quick, I just want to go ahead and give my best character, and that's going to be Pagoda and Royal Tenenbaums.
Yes, I love that.
Doc, just really quick, because we're about to insert clip. Can you tell me what he says to Eli when he's running out the door? Because that scene might be my favorite scene too. Doc, just can you tell him about that? Because I know you got my facts.
Yeah, he says,
hey man,
hey man, this is the quail eggs.
I didn't catch that till I was watching best scenes after seeing it 10 times, twice in a week, and then the next time today just as watching clips. It's hilarious, man. Wes Anderson's a genius. You don't have to not use it lightly. He's a genius. Best scenes, folks. I'm going to pass it to the doc after he wraps this up.
Well, real quick, I'll pass it back up. I just wanted for the audience to know Pagoda is not even an actor. He is he's somebody that Wes Anderson knows through friend, like it's a friend. It's his friend's father. I think he used to work at a coffee shop, and he's just a character. And he's been in almost every single Wes Anderson movie.
Doc, I got my best scene, man, and I'm just going right into it. When Pagoda stabs him for the second time, and we know that, I can't.
You son of a bitch!
That's the last time you ever stabbed me. Oh.
That's the last time you ever put a knife in me.
Oh, thank you, Doc.
That's the last time you put a knife in me. Hear me?
Our favorite scene.
Oh man.
Scene.
I don't know my best scene, but I can talk about. I can introduce one. And I think in this I love both these movies, and so I want to talk about both. And I think both have incredible scenes. I mean, Good Will Hunting has a couple really, really good fucking scenes. One of the ones that I love the most is where Robin Williams' character is talking about his wife and the little kind of intricacies of marriage. And again, this is a deep cut. It's probably not going to be one of the popular ones that you think of, but where he is actually getting Matt Damon's character, Will, to laugh and giggle. That whole scene was ad-libbed.
My wife used to fart when she was nervous. She had all sorts of wonderful little idiosyncrasies. You know, she used to fart in her sleep. I'm sorry I shared that with you. One night it was so loud it woke the dog up.
But that was kind of off the point about talking about love and what love really is. And this is where they're bonding, and he's, you know, Robin Williams' character is kind of sharing his experience because Will has no idea what this relationship is like, and really what, you know, the good and the bad. And talking about the little picadillos, and he mentions his wife farting, and
my wife farts in his sleep.
There it is.
And I love that, and that, again, that was all ad-libbed. And you see Matt Damon laughing, and that's him really laughing. I guess if you watch closely, you can see the camera shake because the cameraman was probably laughing at the same time. And but I love that because that was a pure, genuine. Let's not forget, like, Robin Williams is playing a dramatic role, but he's a comedian, he's a storyteller, he's a funny, talented guy, and he's in his element in this scene, in just vibing and being funny, but, you know, funny and humor is emotion too. And so again, just kind of speaks to his character and their ability to establish their relationship in this one scene, and also where he's just shows how much more experience and knowledge and wisdom he has.
Yeah. So if we're talking best scenes, my favorite scene from both movies is going to be actually the intro of Royal Tenenbaums. I think the first 10 minutes,
very nice.
The setup with Alec Baldwin narrating it, kind of going into all the backstories, why people are the way they are, why there's some mistrust, why there might be some infidelities, why Angelica Houston's character as I think is it Eleanor Tenenbaum? Just like why why everyone is the way they are, where they come from, how they got to this point in this fantasy New Yorkian looking city, and I think just that first like 10 minutes I think is just incredible. If you don't get sucked into that movie, it's going to happen within the first 10 minutes. If you're not with it in the first 10 minutes, I would probably just turn it off if I were the viewer, because that first 10 minutes I think is fantastic. Something
that I noticed last night when watching it for, honestly, I'm not making this up, probably the 50th time, at least 50th time. I used to have that movie on repeat, but for the first time last night, I realized that intro is actually them getting ready for the wedding at the end of the movie. And I love that. Like it's kind of like I guess a foreshadowing, but like setting up a later scene, but it's the perfect vehicle to introduce each of these characters in their uniforms or their costumes, I think, as Kat pointed out earlier.
Foreshadowing indeed. Beware. You got a favorite scene for us?
I think they both have their own standout scenes for sure. Good Will Hunting has I think the end of Good Will Hunting is my favorite scene in the movie. When it all comes to a climax, and without giving anything away, it feels really good. But my favorite scene between both movies is definitely in Royal Tenenbaums, when Richie goes into Eli Cash's house for the first time, and Eli Cash is on mescaline, and you see the whole room that he's in that he lives in, his apartment, is completely outrageous.
I'm sorry, don't listen to
He's
me.
growing weed.
Mescaline.
And none of it's like, all the details are not like, I guess kind of featured, but not really. None of them are called out.
They're tucked away.
Yeah, they're tucked. They happen to be in the shot just because it's kind of a close quarters. They're not called out. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's growing weed. There's stacks of pornos. He's on mescaline. The only reason that's brought up is because he's just like despondent. He doesn't even know what's going on. It's just classic. And
what did you say?
The fact that like every time I watch it, I catch something new that I really like in that scene. It cracks me up.
Hey, beware! I thought those were board games and not pornos until last night. Savage.
No, they're pornos, and it's so good, and it just really is a great introduction into Eli Cash's character. You get introduced to him, obviously, but you get the reality check of what he's all about when you see that. And Richie is just kind of going with it, and he's kind of naive because he's been out the loop, but that's a great scene.
Yeah,
really fun.
Naive, but super supportive of him as like his friend.
Yeah.
And honestly, I know we already passed the best character.
I'm going to weigh in on my best scene. I would probably say I'd pick a scene from Royal Tenenbaums. I feel like the scenes are really, really detailed and well balanced, and the humor is so subtle and throughout the whole movie. But I figured just to balance it out a little bit, I'll choose a scene from Good Will Hunting. I'll say the bench scene, which is the scene that follows the
this is really
the
nice.
choking scene, I guess. All it is, put it. So you have Robin Williams' character seems like he's just sort of prepared this speech to give him, which I think is necessary. And he's willing to hear him out. Will Hunting is silent the entire time. And he basically gives him this speech that has pretty much 3 major themes to it, which is art, war, and love. And I think that these are all, I guess, any like intelligent literary person would know a lot about. But basically what he's saying to him is that you don't know shit about shit. Everything that you've experienced is in a book, and I have lived life. And it's basically just him putting an intellectual and emotional sort of dominance in a way, saying like, I'm the fucking daddy right now, and you have to listen to me because I've seen the Sistine Chapel. I've been in war, and I've been in love, and I've lost love, and I've been through all that. And if you don't think that experience is worth your time, then you're a foolish, scared, stupid kid, is essentially what he's saying. So that is really the beginning of their relationship, and I just think that's a really powerful scene.
Yeah, man.
Great points, Kat.
I'll just piggyback off that.
Yes.
But yeah, man, I totally agree. And hearing you talk about it made me kind of think about this. Is like he's checking him in this scene, and this is probably Will
bossing up.
Yep, and this is Will, who has probably super talented, skid by and everything in his life, and has been able to play this role of I can learn things really quickly, I can adapt, and I can be cocky, and you can't tell me anything I don't already know. And this is Robin Williams' character recognizing that, characterizing him as such, and figuring out how to communicate with him of, you're right, you're smart, you're talented, you can recite all these things, you can learn all these things, but you can't learn experience until you experience something, and you can't explain those sorts of things. And basically, here's what I can help, and here's what I can give to you is my experience, my wisdom, my guidance, and kind of sets the tone right there for the future of their relationship. And just another quick side fact is that bench that they filmed that scene in Boston, actually after Robin Williams' passing, actually became a spot for people to kind of show their memorial and kind of show their respect for Robin Williams. And to this day now, it's an official memorial for Robin Williams.
Wow, man. Jeez.
That's excellent.
Can't wait to take our thread on a movie tour around the country for film spots and locations. Hey, we've got a couple great things out of the way. We've talked about best overall character. We've talked about best scene. But really quickly, let's talk about the music, man. Hey, if you tuned in to episode 3.1, you know that music is one part of the battle. That's half of it. The music in this is fantastic. I think
all of this forgot to mention. He's talking about the Royal Tenenbaums soundtrack.
Doc had the soundtrack. Probably Mike Cap had the soundtrack. Savage is putting his hand up. He had the soundtrack. I mean, probably Beware had the soundtrack too. I bet everybody did except myself, but I heard that soundtrack a lot. And that was a transition from Beware feeding me West Coast music, and that's all I loved was rap pretty much as in my youth. But it really, I would say, and this is kind of, I'm just having this thought right now, that soundtracks like that kind of got me more into the rock and roll, the alternative. And even though I liked alternative growing up too, I'm talking about like old school alternative, Velvet Underground, Led Zeppelin even, Beatles, all this stuff. Like I came into rock and roll late in my life. I loved rap music. I still do. It's my favorite music. But this soundtrack, I would say, had a big effect on me. And that's what I got to say about the soundtrack. It had a big effect on me. And there's a lot of stuff that Wes Anderson does with his sounds, but there's also some really good choice music in both films. And a little pause. Our thread members, while you're listening, trivia question. What artist has a song in both movies? One movie has the artist in it more than once, folks. Go ahead and tell our viewers who that artist is.
Elliott Smith?
Yes, that is it.
Real quick, just talking about, since we're talking about soundtracks, Wes Anderson, one, has kind of paired himself with Mark Mothersbaugh as his kind of musical, I don't know what the actual role is, producer, I guess. He's a producer. But Wes Anderson actually does a lot of the driving in this, and he picks out songs that inspire scenes or emotions. And he typically has a lot of the songs kind of picked out for a movie. Or his stories before that. And one of the things, so I kind of wrote down, so I've been doing a lot of appreciation for Good Will Hunting, and I've spent some good time there and talking about Robin Williams' scenes, but now I'm going to switch gears and really, there's a lot to talk about Royal Tenenbaums, and I'm about to turn it on for that. So
turn it on, Doc.
Wes Anderson, man, he has some trademarks in all of his movies, and we've talked about a couple of them so far. One is Kumar, or Pagoda, who played Pagoda, Kumar Palana, and that he, like I said, appears in most movies. There's a couple of things which I'm sure we'll get to. The cast members, Bill Murray, we've already kind of talked about, but all the other cast members. And the other one is music, and that's one of Wes Anderson's trademarks. A couple things about his music is he not always, but typically incorporates some music from the Peanuts, so the Vince Guaraldi trio, and also Rolling Stones, or kind of British punk rock. Interestingly, in this one, he included some really heavy emotional songs that paired perfectly with some really emotional scenes. And so he has some actors playing these roles and driving the emotion in these scenes, but then he just layers it with a perfect song that just further drives the scene and the emotion.
Who's the composer he works with most of the time, Doc? Because I know he puts in original music too, where it's pretty much made for the movie. What's that guy's name? Because I know he's all over the soundtrack.
All it is, Doc already said that.
Wes Anderson, one, has kind of paired himself with Mark Mothersbaugh as.
Yeah, he was a founding member of the new wave group Devo. So he, and I know we were talking about it last night too. He did the theme song for Rugrats, as well as like half a dozen other.
Found that out last night. That I did not know that, folks.
Yeah, so he's super talented, and he's like the music director, I guess, or kind of like the Wes Anderson's right hand man as far as picking and helping out with some of the scoring. And you know what, I'm not sure about like the scores, because I don't know if, and I could be wrong, but just because I was looking at the soundtrack today, I don't know if Royal Tenenbaums has any original music, which I kind of think is cool, because all the way that I've listened to all this music, it seems like it was all written, even like the Clash songs and the Nick Drake and the Elliott Smith, it all sounds like it was made for the movie. That's how good he does it.
Doc, can you confirm that?
Well, so I think Savage brings up a great point, because a lot of the other movies like Rushmore, or even Bottle Rocket and Life Aquatic, do have a lot of Mark Mothersbaugh on them. This soundtrack is really heavy with covers of other songs, and there's reasons for that, which maybe we'll get into a little bit later. But I do think the opening song, and that I haven't actually confirmed this, but I do think the opening song before it transitions into the Hey Jude cover, I think is a Mark Mothersbaugh. But I haven't confirmed that. But
Doc, talk more about these covers though. After you finish your thought with that, I want to hear more about the covers. I don't know the context, and I'm very curious. Please.
So a lot of this movie that Wes Anderson, he wrote it kind of scene by scene, feeling emotion by emotion, kind of dynamic by dynamic, and a lot of them were inspired by these songs. And so he felt like he wanted to put obviously wanted to put these songs in it to represent that. But it also, I remember him talking about it, and I listened to the kind of special features of the Criterion collection, of him talking about this. Something about this time, this place, what he was trying to recreate with these characters, and these characters who are kind of representative of, they've already passed their prime, or they've already shown in their moment. And he also wanted to kind of select some songs that were kind of nostalgic, and that kind of represented that type of vibe as well. And so he needed to use songs that were already established in our culture to kind of get that feeling across.
as most do in movies, right? That's kind of the name of the game. But Wes Anderson, being that genius, that word I'm throwing around lightly or not, he does this in his films, but it's just another kind of trophy to his directing and writing. He's fabulous, guys. I honestly, if we were doing the greatest directors of all time, I'm going to put him in the final 4 easily. But folks, soundtrack is, come on. We what about that suicide scene, guys? We got to talk about it. That's a savage scene. Savage, what can you please talk about a savage scene?
Yeah. So yeah, if there's gonna be a savage scene between the two movies, I would go with if I were to pick one from each movie, I would say probably the choking scene in Good Will Hunting. I think that's a phenomenal, and I think it's
savage scene.
But the if there's a savage scene from Royal Tenenbaums, I would definitely go.
Please.
Yeah, I would go with the suicide scene with Needle Ney by.
What about those cuts, Savage? Come on, like.
Well,
you might look away the 10 times out of 20 you see it. Those cuts are fucking efficient.
Savage.
How did
Yeah, he definitely I think someone said it last night. He definitely goes up the river instead of across the street.
I think there's too many savage scenes in either movie, but I did think of one watching it last night is Eli Cash, his arrival to the wedding, crashing the car and killing Buckley.
Here I come.
And where he ends up in
that's a great
on the front in the front room rather, flying through the window, and then you get what's the
Buckley.
Raleigh's Buckley's.
No. Raleigh's. No, sorry. I thought you were going to say the dog that it kills.
Dudley hands him his shoe. Buckley.
Where's my
Buckley
shoe?
dies. Yeah, but you've got Eli Cash, in this face paint, and he's out of his mind at this point. So he finally. It's his breaking point. It's his bottom, so to speak, as far as his drug problem goes. So, yeah, that was a good one. Another savage scene, I guess. Good Will Hunting is the fight. That guy used to kick the fucking shit out of me in kindergarten, so they have to go and fight for their honor. That's pretty.
I love that.
You hit a cop, you're going in.
And then he goes ahead and they show that Doc. I don't know if you have this fact on hand, but how many times he has been in court and got himself out of multiple charges. This is the first. Wow. Yeah, I love.
I'd like to point out the lawyer that's trying to put Good Will Hunting away is the worst actor in any movie I've ever seen.
Wow.
Which I thought was strange. Yeah.
Interesting.
I want to point out that would never be said about a character in Royal Tenenbaums.
True.
Wow.
Yeah. It's too meticulous.
And because it's meticulous is exactly it, Savage. Every single portion of the screen, the widescreen, everything is filled. And you'd be like, there won't be a flake on there that is not supposed to be there, unless that little flake or whatever, that speck of dust is supposed to be there. That's Wes Anderson, OCD director extraordinaire. One of the best guys. I just got to say that.
To point out that Good Will Hunting was directed by Gus Van Sant, also super, super talented. Definitely not the same style. As Wes Anderson, but definitely worth mentioning.
With best directors, what would be another film that is you think he directed the best, the greatest? Real quick, Cap, lightning round.
Oh, Van Sant movies. Maybe Savage could help me. I know he directed
Elephant kind of fucked me up a little bit. When I was younger, that's about the kind of Columbine-esque school shooting. These two kids going out and doing that. He's also done. He usually kind of tends to do pretty fucked up movies.
Yeah, he did Milk. He did that Kurt Cobain movie,
the Nirvana one. Yeah.
Last Days. He did a remake of Psycho. He did a recent movie with Joaquin Phoenix. Don't Worry.
Oh, I saw that.
That was the
one. Don't Worry.
before he did Good Will Hunting. He actually almost casted Matt Damon in that role for Joaquin Phoenix.
Oh, really? That's
maybe he'll make a cult classic bracket if we get to that. Real quick, I hope our thread members are ready. I'm calling a lightning round, folks. That means you got to be very quick with your answers. So get your wheels and cogs turning. Piece of memorabilia. What are you bringing home? And all it is got his. So you still got time to think, folks out there. My piece of memorabilia I would love to take home from both of these films would be some of the painting in Eli's one or two, A or B, cut where he's on the couch to the cut on the wall. That artwork is got to be incredible. I want that. I want that in the studio. But where is all the Wes Anderson's props and all these crazy things that he has? I want to go to that storage unit. So Doc, if you got a fact for me, I'll head there.
Hey, so real quick, the monster masked men paintings is what they're known as, are actually by a Mexican artist named Miguel Calderon, and they're owned by Wes Anderson. So you'd have to snap those from Wes Anderson.
Wow, not gonna happen. He's not letting that happen. Maybe we'll get him on our thread, the podcast, and see if we can negotiate a deal. Cap, you're up. Lightning round, remember, folks.
If I could take the entire Richie Tenenbaum's entire collection of Margot Tenenbaum paintings,
very similar to your
as one object. From one failed painter to another.
No, that was a I cried wolf like you do sometimes. I wanted to, your artwork is fantastic, much better than any Tenenbaum.
Oh, I don't take it into offense. I like sometimes I prefer a child's artwork to an adult's. It looks very playful. I think that those paintings and the way that he takes pride in them and hangs them in that room, and you get that scene where he's having somebody hang it for him, and he's a little bit to the left, little down. Perfect. It's just like. Those are my objects.
We got to hear what Beware's piece of memorabilia is. We're in a lightning round, folks.
Before I go into that, I just want to point out the game. This is like borderline best scene, borderline memorabilia. The game room in Royal Tenenbaums with the closet with all the game is so dope, and it's something like I aspire to have.
You take home the whole wall.
Do you get the Boar's Head too?
You get them all.
You'd have to do that. If you pulled that off, you'd have to do that. That being said, that's not my item. My item is the tennis racket, Richie's tennis racket that has RT in the stitches. The Richie Tenenbaum tennis racket that he throws at the infamous match.
I propose something to our thread. By the end of this 64 movie bracket, one of these pieces of memorabilia we name throughout the 64, we have to take home. We have to find it. We have to get it. We have to go on a hunt to get that piece of memorabilia and hang it in honor of our thread. Savage, please tell me your favorite piece of memorabilia. I can't wait any longer.
Yeah, it goes along with what Beware was saying. There's a poster that Richie Tenenbaum has. It says The Bomber on it. And it's very reminiscent of like the early 90s Andre Agassi Nike posters that my cousin used to have up all over his room. And it was kind of the same thing, but instead he's wearing the Fila. Do
you want to play tennis real quick, Savage?
I love tennis. But
what about that scene when the guy, they're walking through the park and he goes, Bubba! And he just, and you can't see it, folks. But if you got your mind's eye working, if you got your mind's eye and Wes Anderson did his job correctly, you'll see exactly that point. I know Doc is infamous for doing that point at us, and we know shit's serious.
Well, Savage. He's actually standing in a subway car in that post.
I love that.
It's such a good poster.
Hey, let's check in with the Doc, because Doc often has numerous research, just piles of it. You wouldn't believe it, folks. The Doc does his, the genius the Doc's in, folks. What do you got for us?
That's research, baby. Pages and pages of it.
Wow.
Hey, but I will say I got to get my memorabilia, and Savage actually. I think that is the one that I would want too, is the bomber poster. But I've got some runners up. I got some runners up for you from both movies. So if I can't get the bomber poster, if Savage already snagged that from me, I'm gonna have to get some of those Dalmatian mice. I'm gonna have to bring those home. The other thing from
kids are gonna love that. Theo's gonna love that, Doc.
Yeah. The other thing from the Good Will Hunting movie is the painting in Sean's office.
Funny things to paint by number.
Yeah.
God, beautiful choices, folks.
The colors are kind of muddled.
I'm happy to be here with my Thread members, our Thread. So I hope we're giving you some good reasons to go check out some great films. But we're here to find the greatest, folks, and I am calling for the vote. I'm calling for the vote, folks. I'm calling for the vote. So who wants to go first? Hey, I do. All it is here, and I'm going to cast my vote, and I'm not going to waste any of your time, folks, because what I'm voting for is the Royal Tenenbaums, a family of geniuses, a genius director. There's nothing in my eyes. Good Will Hunting didn't stand a chance, and I don't mean to throw shade, and RIP to one of the best actors of all time, Robin Williams, but are you kidding me? Blowout, folks. Royal Tenenbaums, one of the greatest. Doc, you're in.
Man, again, I've been dreading this vote. I didn't know what I was going to vote for coming in. And within the past couple minutes, I just decided. And the reason I decided...
No, don't lie to us, Doc. You wouldn't lie to me, Doc, would you?
Honestly, I'll be honest.
Okay, go ahead, Doc.
Good Will Hunting, I was actually leaning towards. That movie, as much as I love Tenenbaums, as much as I love Wes Anderson, when I watched that movie the other night, it hit me and I loved it. And, Robin Williams' performance was incredible and I loved it so much. But just looking over my notes right now,
Doc, did you just get emotional there? I could see it. The folks can't see it, but I could hear it too. I got a good ear. The Doc just got a little emotional there, folks. He might have almost just shed a tear. I swear to God. Doc, hey, if I want to almost persuade you, Doc, if you're about to vote for the Royal Tenenbaums, I say don't. You go with your first instinct. You go with the Will Hunting, and that's all I got to say, Doc. But I see your emotion. What an effect. R.I.P. Robin Williams.
Hey, emotion aside, because I'm feeling it, and that's what I'm vibing off of right now. I felt very strong emotions for Good Will Hunting, and my emotion that you actually saw was a little bit of regret for not voting for Good Will Hunting, but a little bit of excitement for leaning towards Royal Tenenbaums, and let me tell you why. Because I have so many notes, and I didn't get to say a lot of the things that I wanted to say about Royal Tenenbaums. And to me, like, I've got best character that I want to talk about. I've got best scene that I want to talk about that we haven't even touched on yet in Royal Tenenbaums. We've touched on it globally, but I haven't had a chance to talk about it.
Doc. Time out, Doc. You're my Doc, and please talk about that.
One of my favorite scenes, I'll give you two real quick from Royal Tenenbaums. One is when Margot goes to pick up Richie from when he gets back from the boat. His trip, year-long trip. And the emotion in that, when you kind of know their story, you know that he's confessed his love, you know that their relationship, they've already kind of built up to that, and them seeing each other for the first time after knowing all that they've gone through, both individually, but also together as a couple. And then you see the music overlaid on that. You see it's the slow motion scene. And then just a lot of the parallel features of the people walking in the background and the timing of it, and it's beautiful. And it's people seeing each other that hadn't seen each other for so long, and have real feelings for each other. Another scene, I'll just say it real quick, you guys know what I'm talking about, is the one take with Royal and Ethel when he confronts her for the first time, telling her that he's got cancer. And
see, I know we needed you, Doc. Go ahead, please go.
I mean, both of those are, just Tenenbaums just hits you, ba-boom, ba-boom, ba-boom. I think it was Beware said it earlier, like, there's not a scene wasted, or that might have been You All It Is. And there's not a scene wasted. And each scene is pitting these amazing actors and these characters against one another. And it's amazing. And yeah, Good Will Hunting has some incredible scenes, But overall, I got to go Royal Tenenbaums. And the reason I'm saying it too is because I think we might be talking about it more next time in another round. And so I've got some notes and some things that I might save for that. Yeah, man, I love Royal Tenenbaums.
I hear you, Doc. And Doc, hey, I said, who brought this in? Who brought Wes Anderson in? It's you, Doc. Who is ready for their vote? Please raise your hand, folks, so we can get moving, because we already have twosies for Royal Tenenbaums. Savage, go ahead. Let me hear it.
Yeah, I'm gonna kind of follow suit. I think last night when we were talking about this movie, when we were watching Royal Tenenbaums, I heard the word blowout mentioned. I think that it isn't even close, and my vote would be with Royal Tenenbaums.
I hear you, Savage. I tried to get the Doc because I really did feel like that movie affected him, and he appreciated it maybe more than I did. I could see that. That's one of my friends. I can read their feelings, and you know, it almost makes me want to go back and view, because I've thought Blowout the whole time, but when I watch Good Will Hunting, it really is a good movie.
It's a great movie.
Maybe you have to see, hey, Wes Anderson, you have to see it 30 times to pick up on stuff I haven't picked up on. Unless the folks out there are a little bit a little bit more wittier and more genius than I am. But right now, it's passing on to Beware, because I'm curious to hear his vote.
That point you just made right there was kind of the point that I was about to make. It's just that I think that
Geminis.
Yeah, hi. I think that Royal Tenenbaums, every time I watch it, I find something new. And I appreciate movies that are like that more than any other movies. I like movies that are not obvious, and I like movies that draw me in despite not being obvious. That kind of like it's just a wild ride, or it's a mystical ride, or it's it's something completely that you can't see what's going on, but you're just all in because they do such a good job of keeping you there interested.
Beware, you just went Roger Troutman on us, and the vocoder was crazy. I think Mordecai's up there messing with your Wi-Fi. So just to take it back just a second, Beware, you were on a roll doing what Beware does, and talking about appreciation for a movie that just carries on and carries on and carries on. Go ahead.
Yeah. I don't know where I got cut off, but basically I was just saying that I appreciate a movie that gives me all the details and keeps me sucked in despite not knowing exactly where I'm headed. And despite any genre. And Royal Tenenbaums is a drama comedy that really, you don't know what the hell is going on. You got a half hour, 45 minutes left in the movie. You really don't know how the movie's going to end necessarily. Yeah, you're all in, and it's so good. And I think that says a lot. And the fact that you can come to it every time you watch it, find another nuance that's hilarious and great, is just so awesome. And while Good Will Hunting is excellent all around, the dialogue's fantastic. To me, it's kind of one-dimensional, and that the dialogue is really what carries the whole movie. And the acting is also good, but you don't have the dialogue, you don't have the script, then there's nothing to act about. You know what I'm saying?
I hope we don't get biased, because we're all such close friends when we think about what the greatest is, because it's intertwined between all of our friendships. But right now I want to pass it to the Cap, who's we've all had long days, and like I said, I can see my friends out here. I can read their emotions. The Cap's mescaline takes its toll. Cap, I know you're tired. I know you're working hard out there, buddy. I love you so much. But I need you to go ahead and tell me what your vote is without going into it too much. I need a quick vote from the Cap. Quick vote from the Cap. Here we go, folks. Go.
I vote for Good Will Hunting. I won't say why.
No, that's not fair, folks, because what we have is 4 for 1, and now the Cap has to talk. And I'm mad at him, but I love him, and it's been a plan in motion, and Cap cries wolf, all that smoke. Cap, you talk about that fucking movie. You better.
This movie I saw when I was a very young person. I think I was in 9th grade. It's one of the movies I would say that got me into movies. I'd say the same for American Beauty. In fact, I almost want to compare those two movies sometimes, because they're both very original. This movie, I do agree with everything that you guys make great points about the Royal Tenenbaums. It's certainly, the attention to detail is there's something to be said for it. But I honestly think that I don't know, maybe it's the less is more thing for me. Maybe it's the fact that I think the bones of the movie are a little stronger.
Can I ask a provocative question or provoking question, if you will, Kat? Would you have voted for the Royal Tenenbaums 5 years ago over Good Will Hunting, or do you think this is something that you know?
I would say that Good Will Hunting has always been, for a very long time, has been one of my favorite movies. I've probably seen this movie more than most movies, definitely more than the Royal Tenenbaums, even though I've seen that movie plenty of times. You know, Good Will Hunting is a movie that I think it has very few characters, and it's a full movie. It's an independent film that made its mark on everybody. So that being said, I could have seen myself voting for Royal Tenenbaums on a different night, perhaps, but tonight, after hearing everybody talk about it, I sort of realized that Good Will Hunting is always going to be a classic for me. And I think it's just the fact that you have this relationship with Good Will Hunting, with Will Hunting and Sean, that is, it's like he's the dad that he never had, and it's really emotionally charged, and I think that makes for a really interesting movie dynamic when you have a father that's not the father. you're finding your real sort of like spiritual father in this movie. So
all great points, Cap, and I'm glad, sometimes you think there's going to be a sweep, but when one of your thread members comes out and makes a proposal for something, you tap into something. It really is. We're here to find the greatest, but what Cap says, I really appreciate it. And sometimes, hey, if we have a sweep, there's no reason to hold you up, folks. But there's a lot to say about great movies. And I think the doc has a little bit more to say before we go to the hat. So let's pass it to Doc real quick.
Yeah, and I really just want to make this quick because I know we're eager to get to the pick. But this is a tough matchup. And I think that the votes and the way it played out, although it was close to a sweep, actually is not really representative of what this matchup is. I think, if you look at Academy Awards, like nominations and winners, like Royal Tenenbaums was nominated for 1 Academy Award for Best Writing Screenplay, whereas Good Will Hunting was nominated for 9 Academy Awards, took home 2, including Best Writing. And so Good Will Hunting actually won over Royal Tenenbaums for Best Writing, and then won for, Best Actor or Supporting Actor. Like, I want to say, like, Cap, what he's saying and, kind of what my emotions are, and I know that you guys all felt it too, is like Good Will Hunting's a great movie. But interestingly, kind of looking back at it retrospectively, and this is our thread, this is our kind of our favorite movies, and 4 out of the 5 are leaning towards Tenenbaums. Like, it's interesting. That's the interesting thing to me, is like, did that age better? Did it have more profound effect on us? And so I think that that's kind of the type of interesting conversation and voting that you're going to get when you're listening to our thread. Is kind of we're not going to be looking straight up at IMDb scores and using that to decide who wins the matchup. So it was a tough one, and I actually was back and forth for a little bit, but had to go with the.
I really did. I thought you might have had your vote for Good Will Hunting. Like I said, I can pick up on emotions, but hey, all great movies should tap into emotions, and all these should tap into some emotions. Hey, I was crying watching Eddie and the Cruisers for 3.1. So, folks, these movies are great, and if they don't tap into your emotions, what are they doing? We're here to find the greatest. If they're just cynical, or if they're just one comedy or drama, all action, they don't make it.
I cried when I watched Eddie and the Cruisers too.
I doubt that.
For different reasons.
Oh,
different reasons.
I'm calling Cap cries wolf instantly. Cap didn't shed a tear for that movie.
I cried on the inside that I had to watch that movie.
If the folks have been tuning in, that Cap wasn't on last episode. Where Savage,
I'm mad.
You didn't call him the crap, did you? Or was that me? I edited it out. I don't know. I think I edited it out. It's no big deal.
I'll take whatever flack that you guys have to throw at me for disliking Eddie and the Cruisers.
I don't tend to agree with you when you're on mescaline. When you sober up and talk to me tomorrow and tell me you're sorry and you love me like you do every day, I'll agree with you, Cap. But right now,
I'll never apologize.
Before we go to the hat, just just after last night, after we watched Royal Tenenbaums all together as our thread, it made me really, really excited for once movie theaters open back up and once we can go do things in public again. And I think one of those things will probably be when we see Wes Anderson's next film, which is supposed to come out in October, The French Dispatch.
Yes.
But I am very, very excited, and I know.
Man, now you better pass it to the doc, because I'm sure, I guarantee the doc has some sort of fact. No, doc, please freestyle him a fact. What do you know about this, doc? Come on.
I don't have any facts per se, but all I can say is that I'm really excited about this one, that the new actors that are going to be in it, some returning actors and actresses that
Benicio del Toro.
Yeah, Benicio del Toro.
Can we do an episode maybe, guy? I don't know. Could we maybe, hey, after we view it together, could we just sneak in an episode? I don't know.
It's going to be good.
Sure.
I'm excited.
We'll still be in the middle of the first round by October anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Go to the hat.
3 years from now.
The hat. Let's go to the hat. Ladies and gentlemen, let's go to the hat. You know what I have in front of me? I don't know the math. I'd have to check in with Doc or Savage. But, hey, there's like 50-something movies in here, and I'm about to pick out one from the hat. I hope you do your homework. Ooh, because we got to do our homework, folks. I don't know if you did your homework with this episode, but I hope we made a great proposal for 2 great movies. And obviously, you know who won, the Royal Tenenbaums. They're moving on to the next round, folks. Go do your homework, but our homework is in my hand. It's in my hand. It's in my hand, ladies and gentlemen. What movie do I have? I never know because it's so small. As I say every time, the little picture that Savage sent me is like 4 megabytes, something like the smallest thing you've ever seen, and I cut it up on little pieces of paper.
And honestly, just to back that up, so I've got a screenshot of what Will sent us, and I have to, when I like zoom in, I can't even make out. I have to like guess based on the way it like fuzzy looks like what the movies are. So
I'll send something better out.
If I was in 1080p on Zoom right now, you'd be able to see my hairs are standing up on my arms because I got the chilly willies. Because Doc came in and tuned in for a second, and I haven't seen the movie that I have pinched in between my thumb. They can see it in front of me, the thread can, but I can't. So I'm about to read it, and I've seen one. I don't know what's under it. I've seen one, and I'm already filled with so much excitement, and I'm so excited to watch a big movie, folks. Ladies and gentlemen, we have probably one of the most epic. Oh God, epic! That word, we love it so much around here on our thread. But this got to be one of the best first round matchups. I bet Savage could call it, but I'm not going to ask him. I'm just going to go ahead and say the.
All it is. There's nobody better. There's nobody better to pull a couple of movies from the hat than you, might.
Well, then raise your hand if you got R.L. Steins. Raise your hand because
I do.
It's a mulligan rule. Unless 80%'s got R.L. Steins, I'm not fucking reading it.
I'm ready for it.
I am going to read it, and I'm going to say Wolf of Wall Street versus Django Unchained. Go. Can you don't know what's going to win. You have no idea.
You got a Leo Fest.
Fantastic movies with a Leo Fest. My favorite actor, folks. I love all my folks here on our thread, but I got a big crush on Leo. And I'm so happy he got that award. My favorite movie when he was laying in a horse. I actually like many other movies, and I'm so excited to do my homework. Beware's birthday's coming up, folks.
We got 6 hours of movie watching coming up this week, guys.
Hey,
are those both 3 hours?
Any of those hours?
I believe so.
Watch them both tonight.
You sons of bitches, if any of you motherfuckers, I call that to my friends. I'm allowed to say things like that. I'm going to call them motherfuckers. If any of you motherfuckers call them mulligan right now, I am mad. I'm going to go. We can't, no 4.1s, no mulligans. I'm calling it. I'm oh my God, the doc wants to talk. Doc, please don't you. Doc, what do you got to say before we end the day?
I don't know, man. I feel like I'm in the same kind of position as last week where I've got 2 amazing movies and I hate it. I hate it really bad. So I think I might try to use my newly regained mulligan right now.
Mulligan!
And OMG, and the crowd chants OMG. Folks, can you get mad at your doctor? I don't know. Maybe you can. Hopefully he's giving you good results, as my doc has given me plenty of good results. Doc, don't hold us up. Please don't do that. You wouldn't lie to us. So go ahead and let me hear your mulligan, Doc, because
I'm going to replace Wolf of Wall Street with Eddie and the Cruisers 2, Eddie Lives.
I'm quitting the thread.
the band broke up. We'll just start. Oh, on Columbin's birthday, I'm so fucking frazzled, as I've said before. Ladies and gentlemen, the band's broke up. The doc is in. He says Eddie Lives. Folks, do you know what a cult classic sequel is? It's called Eddie Lives. If you didn't do your homework for episode 3.1, you lost. You lost, folks. You go watch Eddie and the Cruisers now. But I'm going to vote. And Doc, no. No, Doc. No, Doc, no. And that's all I got to say.
No,
Savage.
No.
I
Beware.
feel I'm not going to justify.
Of course you do. Of course you do.
And Beware says, what did you say, Beware?
Oh,
it's not on that soundtrack, unfortunately. Beware has said yes, but folks, if you know the new rules, please, you got to tune in to 3.1. I promise you'll enjoy it, folks. But if Cap says no, Eddie and the Cruisers 2 is a no. Cap, what's your vote?
I'd like to point out a rule. There are no sequels in this. So I'm gonna give Doc his mulligan back once again, and tell him to choose it again. I'm not gonna vote because it's not votable.
Can somebody else besides me tell him what we got? I almost forgot. What do we got? Doc?
Django Unchained.
Oh, savage.
Versus
Wolf of Wall Street.
Wow, Leo. Here we go. Signing off tonight with the boys. I'm All It Is, here with the Doc, Savage, Beware, and Cap. We'll see you next week for episode 5, folks.
Good morning.
Morning.
Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Well, it's very, homey.
What? Are you kidding? We got us a family here.
I hope you realize how you've hurt my feelings.
I'm afraid you're just too darn loud. Next place.
Just take it easy, man.
I'm perfectly confident.
Yeah, waving the fucking gun around?
Calmer than you are.
Look, I made a mistake, all right? It didn't make any difference anyway.
Hey, I'm letting it go. But don't say it doesn't matter. Every line matters.
Get off my back!
Don't fuck with my plan!
And like that, he's gone.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Our Thread Podcast, bringing our content to you, featuring All It Is.
It's official, old buddy. Well, has been.
Beware.
From then on, he was known as Benny the Jet Rodriguez.
The Doc.
You're the Doc, Doc.
The Cap.
Oh, if you already know the answers to your questions, then why ask? Big fuck.
And myself, Savage.
I'm 6'5", 220, and there's 2 of them.